you not only look at the technology that you're working on, you're also looking at what is coming, ahead of the time. So what are you trying to do in the future, right? Because you have the whole engineering mindset, with all the technology at hand as well as the problem at hand. But at the same time, you're interacting with your customers and trying to understand their pain points, right? Then you can easily relate, oh, okay, if I apply this technology to this problem, I should be able to solve this issue for the customer. So this is how the engineering mind thinks, always trying to solve the problems.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Lomitech, and sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and Birthright Excel. Hello and welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Today I'm honored to be joined by Sreeram Ravinoothala, Director of R&D VMware. Sreeram is Director of R&D at VMware, a cloud computing and virtualization company. He runs an R&D team across Geos that provide connectivity and services for workloads that run on multi-clouds using NSX orchestrator or that work based on K8's orchestration. Sreeram has delivered products that help customers focus on the workloads or apps rather than on the underlying infrastructure. Sreeram's focus has now been to look at SaaS-based infrastructure services in a multi-cloud scenario. Sreeram Ravinoothala, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. How are you today?
Good. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm doing really great. Monday morning, typically people get blues, but today I'm so excited, to be on your show and, to talk to you.
Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited in these next 20 minutes to dig deeper into your own journey. You're currently a director within the R&D department of VMware. You're looking at cloud computing and multi-cloud computing. I'm excited to know what the multi stands for and how that works in today's society. But I'm also curious to pick your brain in the aspect of leadership and technology and being within these great organizations and what you've learned in terms of managing R&D departments and what are some things that I can think through and perhaps avoid or take into consideration. So let's start off with a little bit about your own journey and how you end up director within VMware.
Absolutely, Michael, and I'm very happy to share that journey with you. It's an exciting journey to be frank. I joined about 9 years back at VMware, when it was young, and I was so excited to be part of the cloud journey right from the beginning because I came from a systems background and now I jumped into a software only company. I joined as an individual contributor, and I was fascinated by how things move and how things actually are done from the management perspective, rather than being, doing a certain aspect of the product. So that was what actually drove me to become a manager, right? And I was able to prove myself and moved laterally into management line. That's when I realized I did a big mistake seriously at the time.
Really?
It's not as if the managers that I used to think was they sit and give orders kind of a thing, but actually it's more than that. It's very tough. You're dealing with people, you're dealing with emotions of the people, right? And you have to be really confident enough to do your job the right way. So I actually then I got motivated. Of course, I got trainings, all that stuff. Then I moved into a role within the organization as a manager, actually managing a people of 12, a team of 12 people. And today, I actually grew organically from then onwards, and I grew my team also. I had a big team over here as well as in Bangalore. And today I'm the director of one of the teams in VMware, and I'm very happy that I'm working for VMware. I'm doing the right things, and VMware is doing the right things. And I hope my journey will still continue with VMware, to the next level and beyond.
And so when you're looking at yourself as an engineer and a leader in the technology sphere, what comes to mind? So what are some things that are immediately apparent to you when you think of leadership and engineering?
Sure, absolutely. So, one of the greatest things about being a leader in the engineering role is you not only look at the technology that you're working on, you're also looking at what is coming, ahead of the time. So, what are you trying to do in the future, right? Because you have the whole engineering mindset, with all the technology at hand as well as the problem at hand. But at the same time, you're interacting with your customers and trying to understand their pain points, right? Then you can easily relate, oh, okay, if I apply this technology to this problem, I should be able to solve this issue for the customer. So this is how the engineering mind thinks, always trying to solve the problems, right? So with that mind, you as a leader will make decisions. You'll make all strategic decisions to see where the company is heading, and try to basically bring these solutions to solve those problems. And this is how, basically from the business perspective, you try to be ahead of everyone, and try to give the customer what they need. But from the team perspective, as a leader, right, you have to actually know what your team strengths are, know what you can do, what you cannot do, and what is at hand. So with that, you plan for a particular feature or a particular problem that you need to solve, and go with the team. Actually, it's not just you, right? Leader is just trying to guide the team in the right direction. That's all. It's the whole team that is behind you that is making it happen.
Right. And so when I understand that in terms of the strategy, and it makes a lot of sense. And now when it gets translated to the day to day, so how does a well functioning team look like
At,
versus perhaps one that is not going to be sustainable in the long run?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, actually. So many of the leaders, they struggle to, when they move from an engineering role into, IC role, we call it IC role, into a manager role, struggle with, handling the teams. The reason is when they were ICs, they actually were able to handle their own problem. They were not looking at the whole system in a single chart, in a single frame. Now, when you become a manager, what is happening is you have multiple people that you need to manage and still deliver what is required for the product. Now, what does it entails to is on a day-to-day basis, if you look at it, right, tactically, the first thing you need to do is, of course, your emails are always there. You have to go through your emails and figure out what the problems are. And you have a dashboard that you create. You go through the dashboard. Oh, what are the problems today that we are seeing? Are there any customers that are not happy? When I say not happy, it doesn't mean actually not happy. Basically, are they having any problems? Do we need to solve the problems? Then once you look at the dashboard and figure out what you need to do, you interact with your team to figure out, okay, what is our next few deliverables that we are working on? What is that we need to do to make sure this particular release or this particular feature or the product goes out on time, right? And then what you do is tactically you actually plan that particular day, going through the meetings. See, you have meetings every day, right? Especially with during this pandemic, a lot of people get Zoom fatigued, but still you have to make sure the business runs as usual. So what you do is you figure out, okay, well, yes, this particular release, what or the feature that we are working on is all working fine, but how about what comes next? So you have to plan ahead and figure out, oh, what do I need? So interact with your architects, interact with your QE teams, interact with your product managers. The whole day you're mostly interacting with people to get all the data you need, and then you use the data, basically mine the data and figure out and plan what you need to do next. When I say next, it can be a day or a week or a month. It's all about planning. Now
Right.
this brings
Right.
in problems when you don't handle this data appropriately. And actually, when you have a cross geo team, it's a little even more challenging, for the fact that you need to be aware of the timelines, I mean the timings that they are working at, as well as you need to make sure they're part of our team, right? The basic problem with global teams is the teams on the other side, they always think that, oh, we are not We are not in the world headquarters. What does it mean? That means we are always on the receiving end. So you need to break the chain. You need to break the thinking, saying that no, it is not. You're the same team. Here you go. You work on this. You have to give them something independent so that they can work on that and plan for it, and then
Hmm.
talk to them on a daily
Right.
basis. So these are some of the
Right.
things that I always have my dashboard, go through that and plan, talk to people, and figure out what next and how we do it.
Right. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, looking at your experiences, maybe you have a few examples of specific experiences you've had where they gave you some interesting insight into the world of leadership or entrepreneurship within an organization, or simply some things that I as a young entrepreneur can take with me as I go on my journey and think, how can I make most of my time and the most impact?
When I deal with teams, for example, let's say when you as a new person wants to actually create a team or try to build a team or even a company, the first thing you need to do is, hey, do I have anyone that I can trust? Can somebody trust me and
Hmm.
believe me in this idea that I'm trying to do, or believe me in this project or feature that I'm trying to do? So you need to have that personal relationship with your people who are you're trying to talk to, or who are you're trying to team up with, and then use them actually to brainstorm the ideas or brainstorm the features, all that stuff. And then slowly, once you have confidence in what you're doing, right, you should have your own confidence. And the same way, you actually trust your team, and then use that whatever you have come up with, right, and see how you can take it to the next level. The next level can be basically
Right.
building a POC. It can be proving that this is what it is. See, for example, I'll give you an example in my current role, right? So we have a lot of innovation going on in this public cloud, private cloud, multi-cloud. We talked about multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is nothing but a public cloud and a private cloud, as well as multiple public clouds and multiple private clouds. It can be anything. Now we have a lot of innovation going on in that area, especially with VMware sitting at the helm of all these things. Now we came up with some XYZ product. I can't code the product,
Hmm.
but came up with the product. But the thing is, it's entirely new. So what do we do? So I
Hmm.
have trust in my engineer, meaning in my architect. So we tagged together. We came up with, we did some brainstorming, and of course, he was the one who ran with all the technicals, and I was the one who set up everything, from the
Right.
management perspective, what to do, how to do. So then what we did was, once we had everything ready, then we went to our management saying that this makes sense. Here you go. This is where the problem is. This is how we will solve this, right, in a multi-cloud environment. And management was happy, and they said, okay, we still have to see what you're trying to do. So we went back, and I actually picked a few people, from the team who are interested in this, and said, you know what, I'm going to shield you from the day-to-day things of your current project, and I'll try to manage that, but you need to work on this 100%. And I actually put them 100% on this. Within 2 weeks, we
Wow.
did a POC, and my management is happy,
Wow.
and
Amazing.
we are actually converting that into a product.
Wow. That's very, very
Yeah, I
cool.
mean,
And so I
it's
guess,
mostly
go ahead.
tactical on that front. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think the one of the big takeaways that I'm taking from this, as a manager, one of the amazing things that you ended up doing was being able to understand that you have a higher priority right now, that you have to prove something, that there's urgency, there's time sensitivity, there's a specific people that are right for the task, and being able to delegate tasks
Exactly.
and to shift priorities around being agile in a big corporate. That's not an easy
Absolutely.
feat to achieve, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean,
Right. And
that's very good points that to bring up, right? In a big company, it is never easy to bring something new as fast as you can in a startup, right? Because Startups move very fast. They are very agile. And what we are trying to do here in VMware is actually foster that culture of a startup. And even though it is big, of course, we have all the processes, all that stuff. Still, the management is so savvy, tech savvy, that we always support our engineers. And believe me when I say this, VMware always cares about people, especially engineers, and they give value to the all the individual contributors, all the engineers, and whatever they bring to the table takes high priority than anything else.
Mm,
So that's the whole, I would say, magic that happens inside VMware. Giving that freedom, giving that opportunity, giving that, basically having that trust in your engineers, thinking that okay, they are going to do it, is where we are today
right.
as VMware. And of course, as I mentioned, right, as a global leader, you should be aware of all this stuff, and you should make sure such opportunities are available not only to your team locally in your headquarters, but also to your team, elsewhere, wherever it is. That's where
Right.
they'll feel that they're included into everything.
Right, especially when we're looking at a post-COVID world where there's obviously hybrid situations and teams are naturally globally, not just because of the pandemic, but because this is where we are heading as a society. And so I think that's something that's definitely to take into account. In just a few words, when you're talking about multi-cloud environments, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so that's a good question. So multi-cloud environment is, if you look at few years back, all these corporates, all the big companies, they had their own data centers. Still, they have the data centers, but what they want is they want something called as DRS. DRS is disaster recovery, or as well as they want migrations, all that stuff to happen. So what they're doing now is they are saying, okay, we have our own presence in our private cloud. We call that private cloud. Now we need something in the public cloud. Tomorrow, if something happens, God forbid, DRS happens. They do have a DRS site, all that stuff, but still they want to have an extra support or extra backup for all that workloads that they are working. I mean that they are running. So what's going to happen is they have bought some, probably space, as well as memory, network, all that stuff, some bandwidth, all that stuff from the public clouds like Azure, like AWS, like GCP, right? And what they're doing is they're trying to connect their private clouds with the public cloud. So this is the multi-cloud environment. And you have your private clouds, you have all these public clouds. Now you want to have presence in all of them. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you do it? That's where our VMware comes in. VMware, what it does is basically it has a very big presence in private cloud, and what it is doing is it's saying, okay, you know what, you want to get into public cloud, sure, use our product. We have a product called VMC on AWS, so use that product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll connect you to wherever you want. So this is how this is a gist of what we do, of course. But this is multi-cloud environment where we do all the connectivity, where we do all the orchestration, where we do everything else that the
Wonderful.
customers can be
That
happy to just use it.
sounds amazing, Sreeram, and I really want to thank you for coming here and sharing with me both your personal journey and your insights into leadership, especially in the big corporate, but also the work that you're doing sounds fascinating. And I want to take you back
Thank
now
you.
to your childhood and ask you what really fascinated you as a kid. Maybe a specific subject in school or a passion hobby.
Okay, so this is very no, thanks for asking. This is very funny, but believe me when I say this. My background is I'm a mechanical engineer. I ended up in IT, basically high tech. You know how it happened? So when I was in my fifth grade, so computers were just coming. MS DOS, right? That's the first operating system that I saw. And MS DOS came into one of the colleges near my school. And luckily, one of my relative was the dean for that particular department, and that's how I got introduced to computers. And why I like the computers. I used to play Prince of Persia, if you remember that. I don't know, but Prince of Persia used to be my favorite game, and that's how I got introduced. You know what happened? Once I played the game, it picked my brain, saying that, yeah, I mean, there's this something called as floppy. It's so, of course, they were big at the time, but how can this particular thing, run on that? That picked my brain, and I actually was pursuing my computers, all the stuff that I wanted to learn about computers on the side from my relative. At the end of the day, when I went into my college, engineering college, I took mechanical engineering for the fact that I wanted to marry, right, this mechanical stuff into with artificial brain. The AI that we talk about today, it's called as robotics at
Yep.
the time. So that was my passion. I wanted to do that, and of course I did it my undergrad. But at the end of the day, even at home right now, I tinker, and I do a lot of this robotic stuff, programming, all that. So
Very, very cool.
that's something
I
funny,
love it.
where I was attracted to this.
Very, very cool. And what inspires you today? Where do you find inspiration?
So my inspiration comes from my teacher, who actually imparted this knowledge when I was really young. When I was in my 10th grade, and there was no Google at the time, and actually Yahoo was just setting it up. So the only thing that I could get information from were from the library, or from
Mm,
my teacher. My teacher is a math teacher, and he actually learned about computers, all that stuff, like the way I did. But he went to a premier institution in India called Indian Institute of Science, and which is like a research institute. You can talk about Stanford here; it's similar to that back in India. So I learned everything from him, and today what I'm today is just because of him. So that is my inspiration. And
amazing.
he was, remember, he was about to retire, 5 years away from retirement, but he did not stop learning.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Wow. Very, very cool. And what are three words that you would use to describe yourself?
Well, I mean, people call me a little bit, adventurous, because I always want people to take those risks, and
Hmm.
really leave the whatever comes out of it, leave it aside, and work towards that. Yeah, remember, when you are adventurous, then you try to basically invent something. That's what I
Yep.
believe in, and I do that. And of course, I'm
Yep.
ambitious. Again, that's the same example. I always want to achieve something more than what is right in front of my eyes,
Yep.
right? And finally, what I heard from my people is basically, I'm very balanced and honest. So it's not that
Hmm.
I always push my team to deliver something. I always be very cognizant to the fact that I have some empathy, of course, right? And I have to show my empathy, all that stuff, and I empathize with people during these COVID times, how they work, all that stuff. So I keep myself balanced. In fact, if we have a long weekend, I always encourage my team not to work. And whenever it is
Amazing.
required, I always ask them, "Hey, we need to deliver this." So I'm basically balanced. So
Yep.
these are the three words I
I
can I
love it.
can put together.
I love it. Shriram, thank you so much for everything. This was fantastic. Thank you for the inspiration and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thanks, Michael, for the opportunity, and stay safe and healthy, you too.